everybody. Welcome back to Self Center, the Be Real and Heal podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have a friend in studio, someone that I met just over a year ago. This is Diane. And I'm really excited about this episode because, it really goes off of our first episode where I shared a little bit into my story of postpartum struggle and my cancer diagnosis. And I really just touched on the iceberg of those concepts and those subjects. And this is a deeper dive into one of those subjects. So I met Diane about a year ago. We were, fairly new to Texas, and I was joining in my church a group to get to know women my age and in similar life journeys. So it was a group, my first group at the church was incredibly, impactful and great for the time that I was there. And then this was my second group. I looked for a different group. Our group didn't continue on. So this was the second group that I went to, and the fear and the nerves in that room that first day walking in and meeting Diane. And this group had been together for a while. So I was the newbie. I walked in and I kind of felt like I had to share a little piece of who I was. And in so many rooms, it would be, I shared a little bit of my postpartum, a little bit of some of the things I went through, my cancer diagnosis, where I was at in my faith, and just, unveiled a little bit about myself. And I remember sharing things about postpartum and my struggle. And even one of my unique jobs that I had where I did event planning a few years ago for a startup breastfeeding app, and planned a tour across the US on this boob bus where we showed up with lactation experts and support for women all across the US. And I shared it all and spit it all out. And then I kind of sat there like, what are they going to think? And the first eyes that I caught, Diane was looking at me like beaming with excitement. Like,
I mean, did I clap? I think
I don't know if you clapped.
I was so excited.
Everybody in that
and
room.
just in awe that this was all stuff that I had been
I'm going to move this.
Sure.
You're good.
Working on in my own journey. And I just couldn't believe that here you are coming into our group. And felt like very much a God thing,
It was. And you could relate in a lot of the things. We also, now fast forward a year, it's like we work out at the same gym. We're encouraging each other in our businesses. We, at the end of last school year, we would meet up at a coffee shop and both of us be working on things. You were a part of my women's event this year as your own
so fun
business. So we'll get into that. But I want to just get into your story, and it goes back to, one of your experiences in your pregnancy and delivery and postpartum. So if you're ready, let's dive into it. Talk to me a little bit about, it was your third pregnancy, right?
Yes. So I had really hard recoveries with each of my three. And I think the first one was just maybe a little bit of anxiety, which could be normal because, you go from just, independent woman taking care of yourself, doing all the things, and now you're responsible for a whole nother life. And then my second, I remember in that recovery time, just being anxious. I was scared to go to sleep, and I wanted to watch his breathing, and just that little, and I had a hard time going to sleep because I'm like, what if he needs me? And but it was manageable.
Yeah.
This third one, the third pregnancy, it had a different body after. I mean, it hit me in all the places.
Well, and you moved at some point, right?
So Bennett was my first baby to be born in Texas.
Okay.
And so that was the first one I had away from my family, my friends. I mean, my first two we had a very large family, very big, we're really close with our friends. A very big support system.
Yep.
So
that makes a huge difference.
Yes. So those recoveries were hard on me because I think I'm just one of those people. But I had such a big support system. I had my village. So this time was my first time here in Texas. My husband had just started a traveling job
Hard.
where he was going to be gone like 3 to 4 days a week. And, I had these two other, little ones that I had
Like
to,
chase after.
yep. And I don't know, I just had such a leading up to my pregnancy, just like I could feel kind of that buildup of like, how am I going to do this with him gone? And, I lined up, my mom was able to come for like a week. So I lined up a few things to where, and I was like, told my husband, we're finally going to get those cleaners because I'm not going to be able to do that for a little while. So I did try to prepare, because I knew that I had hard recoveries.
Right. Did you have C-sections?
No.
Okay.
Just hard recovery. When I say that, it was, I mean, I think I had postpartum with each one.
Okay.
So that's what I mostly mean when I say hard recovery.
Yep.
And physical too. Because there was something physical going on for sure.
Okay.
Anyway, so with Bennett, 3 days before I had him, I was having prodromal labor. Prodromal labor is like start and stop labor. Like I would be going to sleep, falling asleep, asleep, and all of a sudden I would have like intense contractions, like not Braxton Hicks, like real contractions.
I wonder if I had that because one of my kiddos, I ended up going to the hospital like 2-3 days before they were born. And I mean, the contractions were showing up and they were full, like strong ones. And I mean, lasted for a while. But it just stopped eventually. But I think I thought I was crazy.
Right. It's like, they're like, oh, they're just Braxton Hicks. No.
Right. When they
hooked
me up, I'm like, it's happening every 4 minutes, 3 minutes. But yeah, it just
then it stopped.
Okay. So that's called something. What is it called?
Prodromal labor.
Okay.
So, and I didn't know what it was at the time until I've, went through all of my, education that I did.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. Anyway.
But that's exhausting because your body is prepping, you're like ready for it. And then it shuts down and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why did it not continue on?
Right. The biggest.
Well, you said it was at night too. So
the hardest part about it is
sleep.
Was I wasn't getting any sleep.
Right.
So I'm going into, labor or the day of labor so exhausted already. And I went into labor at like 9 p.m.
Okay.
So already I think my body was just in such a state of like, just my nervous system was just dysregulated. Like, I mean, just on edge from no sleep, from like the start and stop labor and whatever. So, anyways, labor went okay.
Okay.
Wasn't exciting because it never is.
No.
Oh, and it was my first one with no epidural.
You had no epidural the third time?
Yeah, because I figured,
Did you just like have that in mind? You wanted to try it that way?
Well,
I thought that with my first, I was like, I'm not going to get an epidural. Like my mom didn't have any and Lord knows I'm stronger than her. But then I remember saying, I think I'm going to die. And my husband was like, maybe we should talk about the epidural.
Exactly the same. I went 17 hours, my first labor without. And finally, once pain was real.
Yeah.
My husband was like, just do it.
Yeah.
And I was about ready. I could have married the anesthesiologist.
I know.
I was like, why did I not?
Right.
So second one, easiest labor. I mean, he just, I was like, that was so quick. By the time they gave me the epidural, I felt like I could have. So
you could have. Okay. So third one without.
I was like, I'm going to just go for it. And, dumb.
How
dumb.
That was a dumb regret.
Like, if you can, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I like people that I had friends and family, or like my mom watched me in a couple of the deliveries, and she's like, once you had your epidural, you were like smiling, talking with your husband, chit chatting, listening to music.
Right.
Like I had rules with my husband of like the only rule, the first one I was like, do not leave me alone. Like, don't leave me in that room alone because I don't know what's going to happen. Right.
Right.
And once I had that epidural, I was like, why don't you go to the cafeteria? And I like called my brother and I'm like, hey, and he's like, did you have her? I'm like, no, I had an epidural. So great.
Right. It allows you to relax. And
yeah,
when you're in a relaxed state, like your body just knows what to do.
Yeah. It wasn't resisting the natural stuff that should have been happening.
So,
okay. So no epidural. Wow.
Anyway, all in all, labor was fine.
You just wish it would have been more pleasant with that little.
Well, I think that it would have given my body a second to relax.
Yeah.
because now I have a baby and a third one. I know how to do this.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding's always been easy for me.
Okay.
So, and when you have that baby, it's just like you have this like euphoria,
Right.
So I had that definitely. But I mean, just hours after birth, maybe 4 hours, I still hadn't fallen asleep. Baby was asleep.
And you weren't sleeping the few nights
I
before
wasn't
because
sleeping
of
the night
the,
yeah. And I mean, I feel like a lot of women in third trimester
well,
have a hard time
nobody's
sleeping.
sleeping. Yeah. You're not comfortable.
So I wasn't necessarily concerned, but then now that my body's so exhausted, I hadn't really slept at all in like 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was like, why can't I sleep?
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you stay at the hospital?
not very long.
Okay.
So I think we were there just the one night.
Yeah.
So I had him, stayed one night, came home the next day. So I was
So, and you said your labor started at 9 p.m.?
9 p.m.
Did you have them before midnight?
Nope,
No.
1 a.m.
Okay. So then you stayed that
Quick.
next whole night.
I think so. Wait, I think we came home on Monday.
Always tricky when you have the baby in the middle of the night. They're like,
Right. Because I couldn't have gone home the
right.
next day.
No.
Because well, yeah. So,
Okay.
anyways, so Monday. And my mom flew in
Okay.
while I was in labor. So
Okay.
um she was there come Monday to help with kids, house, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And um by the time I got home, I knew like something's not like just my body, like I couldn't relax,
Mm-hmm.
other than when I was breastfeeding or holding baby. Like that's the only time that I felt like okay.
Mm.
But then as soon as it was time to put him down, I just I couldn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I couldn't relax. So like I was kind of up moving around doing dishes and doing some things and playing because I as soon as I sat down, it just there was
Mm.
something. It was weird. I honestly
And you told me like you've been kind of anxious your whole life, right? Like
right.
bits of it, but always kind of felt like you had control over it.
Well, like looking back now, I feel like growing up, I was always called like a worry wart,
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right.
or, I never had been diagnosed with anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
which, looking back, that's what it is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I feel like who doesn't have anxiety these days? Anyway, so I
You
don't
were,
know.
I mean, it had to be some feeling of like anxiousness, right? Because you said you're fine when you're up doing stuff, but then
Yes.
you sit down and it's like, no, I can't just sit here. I mean, and you've got you have the two toddlers to run around with,
Mhm.
baby. You're feeling purpose in that moment of like feeding and like doing the essentials, but
Yeah.
you can't relax. You can't come down from
No.
this anxious feeling.
And when you go into labor like that, your body needs to heal. You need to
Yes.
sleep to heal. You need to rest. So, I in my head I thought that I had something going on like blood clots or some kind of thing. I thought it was some internal, maybe I had a uterine infection or something because my body was just there was something wrong. So, I think it's day 2, we go to the hospital and they run like a test to see if there's like blood clots and my blood pressure's through the roof.
Okay. So they know something's up
And
from that at least.
yeah, and I remember telling the ER doctor, like, if you don't find anything wrong in my body, like there's something wrong with my mind.
Yeah.
Because I remember having just being ready to like I needed to sleep and I was ready to do anything to sleep. I was like,
Mhm. You
take me
needed a
away.
break. Yeah.
I told him, I was like, I think I need to go to like a facility. I think I need um
How hard and scary to like say that out loud. And you said it was a male
mhm.
doctor. How did he?
Well, so they ran the tests
Okay.
and they monitored, my blood pressure and stuff. And, you know, they didn't find anything wrong in my body.
Right.
So I was like, I can't go home. Like I can't function. I can't sleep. I need somebody to like, I need to do just anything.
Right.
So when you go into the hospital and tell them that you think you need to be committed, they bring in a mental health professional.
Mm.
And this, I wish I knew his name. I wish I could find him because he was one of like just such an angel
Yeah.
in that moment for me.
Yeah. Take me
And
to that day. So you're there,
uh-huh,
you go to check in. They say they're going to bring in an expert.
uh-huh. So he comes in and, talks to me about, what's going on and how I'm feeling. And I had told him, you know, um, about this really weird, and looking back at it now, and now that I've gone through the education I've gone through, I can see it as it was postpartum OCD.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was changing Bennett's diaper, and this was like day 2. So it was before I went into the hospital. And I had a pair of scissors
Mm-hmm.
on the diaper changer. And so we could cut the diaper genie bag. Um, so I mean, it was meant to be like it was supposed to be there, but
Mm-hmm.
for some reason in my head, that pair of scissors scared me so bad being so close to my baby that it like did something to my like I
Mm-hmm.
could not stop thinking about that pair of scissors. It was the
Right.
weirdest thing. And so that was another reason why I thought I needed to commit myself because something's real going on,
Right.
real crazy up here. So this mental health professional asks me, like, do you think you really need to go into one of these facilities? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of laid out the whole thing. Like, if you decide to do this, you're gonna be committing to at least 2 weeks, and we're gonna have to take you there by ambulance
Right.
because once I like sign in or whatever, they can't like let me go. And
Right.
so as soon as he said those two things, I'm like, no, no, if I can do
Right.
that,
You've
then
got
I
two
have
toddlers and a baby that you're probably breastfeeding at this point
mm-hmm,
at home.
mm-hmm. And so
Who was with you? Your mom or
I
your
had my
husband?
mom
Okay.
there this time. And
Did your husband know, like, when you were going to the hospital, like, I'm not in good shape. I need to go.
he was so supportive. He said, whatever you need to do to be all right, you do it.
Yeah.
So he was like all hands on
Thank
deck
goodness.
with the kids, all 3 kids, brand new baby. Thank goodness I'd already, like, my milk had already come in.
Okay.
So I already had some,
Okay.
you know, um, but
Thank
so
goodness he jumped into action and he was
yes,
just like, go. Yes.
yes. So back with the mental health professional, he explains, what it's all going to look like if I
Mm-hmm.
decide to do this.
Yep.
And I asked him, what do you think? Do you think, after everything I've told you, do you think that I should go?
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, the people that you see at this facility, you don't look like those people.
Mm.
And he told me a little bit about his own wife's um, experience after having a baby and kind of just made me feel like, okay, yes, this is big and hard. And also it's not completely out of the ordinary. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're okay.
Right.
And
He
he's
made you feel seen in that moment.
yes.
Like,
And
thank goodness for him.
yes. And he said, from what I can see, you have a good support system. And I had mentioned, I said something like, I know I should just trust that God, I said something about God, Jesus.
Faith.
And
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not supposed to do this, but can can I pray over you? Whoops. And I'm
That's
like,
cool.
yes, please, anything. And so he did. He
Wow.
prayed over me. And as soon as he finished his prayer, it wasn't like it wasn't like I was completely, healed or lifted
Right.
out of this. but it was just enough that I was able to like think instead of just be stuck in the feeling that I was
Right.
in.
Like a weight was lifted in
Yes.
that moment.
Yes. It just gave me just that much of a push up
Mm-hmm.
to where I was like, okay, um, no, I'm not going away from my baby for 2 weeks. I need my baby. My baby needs me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to just find the strength to,
Mm-hmm.
go back home. And um, I made an appointment with a postpartum specialist.
I mean, that's the important part. You didn't just say, no, go back home and keep trucking through the pain. You were like, okay, I need some resources. I need some stuff
Yes.
here.
It gave me the, like I said, the boost to start using my brain, to start like putting into action some
Mm-hmm.
steps that I know will help me then get through it.
Right.
So,
I'm just going to move this
sure.
a smidgy. There we go.
Okay. So yeah, I took steps towards just, I mean, anything that could help me. I
Yeah.
went to my acupuncturist. I went to this postpartum specialist, psychiatrist who did, she finally said, have you ever been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder?
Mm.
I said, no, but that tracks.
Right. Makes sense.
Uh-huh. And so started some medicine
Mm-hmm.
and started seeing a counselor, I think twice a week.
Okay.
And I mean, I called in all the troops, my neighbors, um, meal train, anybody that had said, offered any kind of help.
Yeah.
I said, yes, please.
Yeah.
I,
And that can be so uncomfortable to accept help. Like a lot of people I know have a hard time. But
yes,
you knew, you were like, I need to pull in resources to get through this. I am going to need some support. And
yes,
where can I accept it?
yes. And I shared like this hard stuff that I was going through with neighbors that, I think in a different moment, I would have maybe not told them about any of
Really?
this like super vulnerable stuff because I mean, I admitted to almost committing myself when I had a baby at home that needed me. Like, how awful is that?
Well, but also think about it. I'm sure, there may be listeners that, like, I know one woman in my life who did end up committing herself in that postpartum period. And, she said it was, I needed it. She probably wasn't in your same shoes where she's like, I couldn't get myself out of it. I needed to get myself healthy in order to take care of
Right.
my baby. But, like I said, you didn't stop there. You still were like, okay, but what do I need? I might not be to that point, but I don't want to end up there. So I got to face some things, deal with some
Mm-hmm.
things, go to some specialists, talk to some people. And I mean, man, that vulnerability with those neighbors, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it impacted them. I'm sure people could relate. Did you hear that from people?
Honestly, it was such a weird um moment. I honestly it didn't even register
Yeah.
what other people thought.
You just needed to
I
like
just
share and
yes, I made sure to focus on, the baby and doing all the things because that came easy.
yeah.
All the baby stuff, but just I needed somebody like with me. I
Yeah.
just needed like just a little, I called my best friend in, my whole family, friends is in Oregon. I had her come the week that my mom left, called my dad, said, hey,
Mhm.
Ray's leaving this week. I need you to come this week. So I had somebody with me for the first 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then, on top of that, neighbors and friends bringing meals and
Yep.
friends, taking the big kids out to play and stuff. So yeah, I took on any kind of help that I could. I literally, I mean, I was going to acupuncture.
Right.
I did all the
I love
things.
that though. Like I feel like that's something about you that I've, um, looked up to and just admired about you is you're like, okay, but what can I do to feel better? You're very in tune with the way that you feel and like alternative options for, I know
Mhm.
you see functional medicine doctor
Mhm.
and we've shared our magnesiums that we take and things like that. things that just like, okay, this might help me fall asleep or stay asleep better. This might help me in my health journey with my diet or whatever it is. Like, I feel like you have to be able to do that. The same tools and things that you use 10, 15 years ago will not still
Right.
work today.
Right.
So I admire that. Okay, we're going to dive in because I want to take a little break here for something fun, but then I want to get to what came from all of the struggle and where it led you, because that's really exciting. And I want to be able to get to that. So
Sure.
let's take a little break here. It's called our easy breezy break. Some just like lighthearted, fun things just for listeners to get to know you a little bit better and relate to you in a fun way. So do you have a ride or die song? Something that just lights you up, makes you move?
I'm going to go with my current ride or die artist.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Okay. Quinn 92.
Oh,
Have you heard of him?
no.
Okay. I feel like he's new.
Okay.
But is going to be big.
Okay.
I feel like he's like the
like
next.
That.
I don't even know how to describe his genre.
Okay.
Kind of Imagine Dragon-ish.
Okay.
HAR-ish. But
Okay.
it's just one dude. So
Quinn
good.
92.
Quinn 92.
And just like lifts you up when you hear
And
it.
the 92 is in Roman numerals. Roman numerals.
Okay. So it's not like a
92. Yeah.
Okay. We'll check
So
it
good.
out.
So good.
Love it. Because my name is Bree and I'm from Wisconsin, I have to ask you, what is your favorite type of cheese?
Havarti. Extra points if it's got dill.
Oh, the dill Havarti. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very specific. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay. Hugs or high fives?
Hugs. I'm a very touchy person. Have you noticed?
Yes, you are.
I
love it.
If you're sitting next to me, it's like
You do it when you're excited.
I know,
You're like, you're like making a point. You're like, I love it.
Hugs, but high fives with some guys, like sometimes you don't want to like hug,
I get it.
Like, so a high five is a good, like little, like
close second.
Yeah.
I like
so.
All right. Favorite dessert? Just so you know, there's no wrong answer here.
Pudding.
Pudding.
Bread pudding.
Oh, bread pudding. I was
bread
like, just
pudding.
Pudding in general.
Kind of pudding.
Bread pudding.
Bread pudding.
Okay. Have you had the bread pudding? I think Haywire has a very good. Do they have a bread pudding? Where's your favorite bread pudding from?
So my love of bread pudding started at a place. If there's any Portland, Oregon listeners out there,
and it's Oregon, not Oregon.
Oregon, like
I know. I thought it was the Oregon Trail, but she's corrected me.
Oh my gosh, Hayden's was the name of the place, but it was huckleberry lemon bread pudding.
Whoa.
And it was so good. I remember like taking bites like in heaven.
Oh,
so now
goodness. Okay, that sounds
love
good.
bread pudding. Yep.
Okay. I've always wanted to learn to blank. Mine's been break dance. I've always wanted to learn.
I'm going to learn to play the guitar.
Play the guitar. Yes. And then I can come over for little jam sessions.
Yes.
I'll sing.
I'm going to. It's on high on my list.
Do it. I know my husband tried to learn, and you have to have like something with like the shape of your fingers, or I don't know. He struggled with it, but good. Try it.
Yep.
I love it. Okay. Last quick question. Best advice you've ever been given?
I'm going to go with just do it.
Just do it, like Nike.
Because
I like this.
You and I have talked about this, where I feel like I get in my own head a lot of times when I'm like, have got some project on the table or like, goals that I'm tackling and stuff. I get in my own head and I kind of just can't get through. And sometimes you just do it.
Right.
And then once it's done, you can go back and read, but you can, so just do it.
We've talked about this in our businesses. There's like that. Well, is it perfect? I don't know if it's going to be, I like with this backdrop, I wanted to, we're at my husband's work and they have a construction business and it's a blueprint. I think actually it's kind of cute because it's like a blueprint of life. Like, don't you wish there was a blueprint to life telling you all the things to do? But I had a backdrop and I was like, okay, it's got to be perfect. And you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Like
No.
this is what is needed just to get the conversation out, these subjects, more awareness to them. You know, if you wait too long for something to be perfect, you might miss that
Yeah.
opportunity. So I like that. Just do it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nike. Um, okay. Let's dive back into you've gone through this battle with postpartum. You're getting some resources lined up so that you can get to a better place. Take me to the other side of it. What did it spark in you?
Okay. So, um, I realized that I had the privilege
Mhm.
to call on all these resources, to go to this really expensive
Yeah.
postpartum specialist, to, go to my acupuncturist, to do all the things. I had such a community around me that was supportive and stuff. And I just thought of, what about all the women that don't
Right.
have that ability? And I had found this company in Australia that I was following on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and they were a company that come in and they take care of new moms. They're called like the Golden Month. They come
Okay.
in and they take care of mom. I think they do like some like cupping or acupuncture or massage, and then like nutrition was a huge part of
Mm-hmm.
their services. And that's where I first learned about the position of a postpartum doula. Now, a traditional doula is like your birth coach. They're
Right.
there at the birth, they help you through the birth
Super,
and
super important.
yeah, act as a, go between you and the medical staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my understanding of a
Right.
doula was.
Yeah. I
Um,
had never heard of a postpartum doula until
no.
you shared.
And so then I found this Kappa Academy. So it's a postpartum doula program to be certified. And
Explain what a postpartum doula is.
so a postpartum doula is somebody that kind of comes in after. It's your postpartum
Care.
coach.
Yeah.
Somebody that's coming in. They're professionally trained in, what your body is going through, like your physical recovery from
Mhm.
childbirth, C-section, professionally trained in newborn care and breastfeeding support.
Okay.
They provide, you know, emotional, physical, and informational support.
Well, and how important because I mean, everybody, when you have a child, I mean, you leave the hospital unless there's some crazy thing that they need to recheck you for. You're not seen for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's ridiculous.
A lot of times they want to
So,
see the baby like 2 days later or a week later, checking for jaundice. They're doing all these things, little checkups, checking weight, but they're not checking you. They're not like, and you're just like, okay, I think what I'm experiencing is normal. I think this amount of bleeding. I think this pain. Okay, I've got a fever. I don't know. And like, who do you ask? What do you do?
right.
So, what
And
a
traditionally, just like I had in Oregon, I had, my mom, my sisters, I had everybody around me, my village.
right.
Yes, I created my village in my third,
Yeah.
with my third one because I had to.
Right.
But nowadays so many women are moving away from, their families and
Mm-hmm.
and their, village, um that and then we're just meant to do it all on our own,
Right.
and it's so coming across this whole idea of a postpartum doula, it just
It lit you up.
it lit something inside me.
I love
And
it.
so went through the education to get certified as a postpartum doula. I did the
Mm-hmm.
education to be a labor doula as well because I feel like
They go hand in hand. Like, it's great to
if you say
know.
I'm a doula, I want, yes, I can be there for your baby.
Right.
Yeah, but I still
But,
have little ones, so the whole being on call for
right.
like a month for the labor part is kind of,
Right.
I don't know. We'll get there.
Right.
But my passion is, with the postpartum period.
Right.
So I started my business in
Mhm.
May.
And you debuted it at my women's wellness event. She had a cute little stand set up with all her information and such great conversations. I saw people
Yes.
talking to you throughout the event. And honestly, just even things like this, educating people on that, there are resources like you out here, listeners that are in other areas. But share the name of your business.
Moms Who Prosper.
So cute. and we're out of Prosper, Texas.
We live in Prosper, Texas.
But you're like, that's what you're doing. You're showing up right after the baby's born to help the mom get to a place where she can prosper, where she can feel good, where she, is encouraged. And I just think it's not talked about and normalized enough that,
Right.
and a lot of times I think consecutive babies, like your third baby, people are like, oh, she knows how to do it. She's got it. And we
Right.
feel that way too. We're like, why is this not working the way that it has in the past? Or what's wrong with me this time around? Like, this should be easier. I should be in a rhythm. I should feel better. I should be up and about and doing things. I mean, and plus social media, like,
Well, and
glorifies
every
the kid.
pregnancy, every um, recovery is different. So
So
you
different.
never know. So that's why with the postpartum doula or, with fourth trimester care, we're
Right.
creating that postpartum plan. And we're going to make sure that we have measures in place, make sure that we have like our list of people. Who are you going to call if
Right.
like things are just not, who do you trust
And you've
with the
told
baby?
me,
And
like, you show up in some of the parts that you want to do for women. Let's say you come in, they have no family around. They ask you to come in a couple days after baby's born. You're at the house. You're helping get some meals going, creating,
nutrition is
ideal.
a huge part of recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been into nutrition.
Well, and how do you nurse and feed a baby if you're not eating things to fuel your body?
Right. And eating the right stuff
The right
that's going to
things.
help your body heal
Right.
the best. So,
And then you said making sure that they're like feeding station, like wherever they're going to be sitting to feed most of the time. Like, let's make sure you've got these things here. Let's, get you somewhere comfy. Let's get some pillows. I mean, just kind of helping women really, taking care of them and all of those little mindful things. Hold the baby, let her take a shower, let her take a nap, and talk to her about her own pain and discomfort and how she's healing.
And, whatever we can do, like comfort measures, like, with the C-section care, and,
Right.
all the things.
So cool. I'm so glad. I asked this question. I like to end with a quote and a word that I've thought of for each guest. And then just, a couple of mentions of some things that look like that you're grateful for or purpose that came out of it. Or maybe even some tools, things that can like help you reset a day. So I want to share the word that I found for you was purpose. And I've got a quote that just, it's by Brené Brown. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy, the experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness, we discover the infinite power of our light. So you have found purpose, creating this business to show up for women that were just like you. I mean, how amazing. And you said to me right before we started recording, so I like to ask people about purpose or gratitude that came from the experience. Tell me what you said. What are you grateful for?
Oh, see, I am so grateful that I did suffer through that postpartum period.
That's powerful.
Because had I not had that suffering and made sense of it with this business that I gotta just add that I'm hoping to turn into a nonprofit, which is another reason why I loved meeting you, because I'm I want to add onto mine, this, because I want to be able to provide this for all women. But to make that make sense, it makes that experience like a positive thing instead of something that just, you think back on, negatively. So,
well, and like you said, you were vulnerable with some of those neighbors sharing kind of what you were feeling and thinking. And, you know, looking back now, you're like, I might not have been so if I would have been in a clear mind, or in a clear state. But I know you've shared your business with some of those same neighbors and they've been so excited for you. So they saw you at that time when you were in that struggle, and to see what's come from it. I love that you said, you're glad you went through that pain and that struggle. What a great advocate you're going to be for so many women. And I just think it's going to be so impactful, so needed, beyond needed for so long. I wish I could hire a postpartum doula for a 4-year-old.
I wish I could hire a postpartum doula just for like a random day and I don't even have a newborn. It's just like,
just
come
hang
help
out
me.
with, come help me. Um, okay, last thing, anything that you give listeners, someone that might be that new mom in that struggle, anything you can normalize for them or encouragement you can give them to like things that work for you to change up your day, get you out of a bad place. I remember you talking
Mm,
about this.
yes, yes. So another thing that I did besides calling all the people and
Mm-hmm.
making all the appointments and doing all the things is I would go outside and just sit in
Mm-hmm.
the sun and get some vitamin D. Um, Outside of that, I would go stand in grass, like go walk in the grass. It's kind of like it's a grounding.
Yeah, grounding.
Um,
I've had
and
a friend do that, pull me out on one of my worst days out of bed and say, let's go. We got to go out there, get some sunlight on your face, feel the breeze,
mhm.
put your feet in the ground.
I don't know. I can't remember. It was Laura Miles with Pure Life Nutrition that told me about the grass. Like if you're feeling anxious, if you're, just
Mm-hmm.
go put your feet in the grass. And I can't remember exactly. It's just like a very quick like way to ground
Yeah,
and kind of just gets unstuck from the,
right. The
that
funk that you're
feeling.
in. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing everything you did. Thank you for being here and helping normalize more of this postpartum conversation that needs to continue. I've always debated someday a book
Mm.
about postpartum because I truly feel like every woman who becomes a mother, has a baby, becomes pregnant, like there's postpartum put in you in some way, shape, or form because you are giving up who you were. Things change from that moment
Yeah.
on. And I think we have a long way to go to normalize this process even more. I've had a few people that were excited to hear your story reach out to me about their own postpartum struggle and, want to talk about medications and anxiety
Mm.
meds and, and difficult deliveries and C-sections and all of the things. There's so many layers to this. So, maybe you can come back sometime. We can talk to another expert, talk to another person with the story and help in this, scope of work in
Yeah.
more ways. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my life.
Thank you for
I'll
having
lean out and
me.
touch you since you're right here. And thank you guys for joining us today. And until next time, I hope you guys find something that lights you up and it just sparks purpose, even though sometimes it's going through pain on the way. But hang in there and don't forget to get a little real. Thank you for doing it with me today while we journey to healing.